What's going on, guys? What Would Vinny Do podcast. I'm really excited about tonight's show. My guest tonight is Randy Reis, a good friend of mine. He's one of the two principals of the Reis New York City team at eXp Realty. He also had a top producing team at Keller Williams, New York City. 25-year member of the American Stock Exchange, and he was actually the youngest specialist on the floor of the stock exchange. And besides that, I mean, I've met Randy recently, and he's just, you know how they talk about to add someone positive in your life? Well, definitely that has been for me. Definitely a smart guy, and I'm lucky to have met him and become friends with him. And thank you for coming, Randy.
Well, thank you for the compliments. I appreciate that, and I feel the same way about you. I'm glad to have made a friend with you.
Yes, agreed. So where can we start, Randy? The show. I don't know if you've heard any of the guests I've had on or my podcast or what it's really about. I'll explain it to you. It's kind of about, besides you being a successful realtor with a successful team and putting up tremendous numbers, I kind of like to talk about the journey with people, and it's not just about real estate. I've had comedians on, I've had movie producers, attorneys, and I just like to talk to you about the journey and the process, the blood, sweat, and tears to get where you are, and that's kind of the respect I have for the journey and people really going all in for what they're doing, and I definitely know you're going all in, and that's what I want to talk about tonight, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
Good?
Let's go.
Yeah, all right, perfect. So you tell me, growing up, like, I know you grew up in Brooklyn. I know you had 7 siblings. Let's start there.
Sure. So I grew up in Windsor Terrace, Brooklyn.
Okay.
And it was a great place growing up, but I didn't really appreciate how great it was until after I left. Like now I realize Windsor Terrace was one of the greatest places on earth.
Why?
I walked out my door at 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning on a summer day, and there'd be 50 kids out in the street. And they'd be doing everything from playing stickball to playing hide and seek to getting in trouble to chasing people down the block. There was like 3 different crews that hung out on just on my block. I went up to the corner. My best friend, Inky, who we had been, our parents put us in the crib together. That's how long we had known each other. And he lived right around the corner, and we would just get in as much trouble as we can. He was the biggest ball breaker that Brooklyn ever knew. God bless. He's not here anymore. He just passed a few days ago. Was a week ago today, actually, was his 10th year of the anniversary of his death. He died from cancer from 9/11. He was my brother, and we did. You could not find one of us without having the other one right next to each other our entire lives. Best man at each other's weddings, godfather to each other's children, and partner in crime.
And that says a lot, because my best man at my wedding, when you have brothers and it's someone else, you know you're really close with that person, right?
You know what? Not just do I know, my brothers consider him
Understood it. Yeah.
That's their brother too, right?
It kind of happened with me. They were like, we know who it's going to be, because they knew how close you were. There was no question, right?
That's exactly right.
Right.
Exactly right.
So
I lived right around the corner from the playground.
Okay.
They literally built the playground when I was about 5 years old. They built the Prospect Expressway, which cut our neighborhood in half. They built the playground right along the side of it. It opened, I was probably 5 or 6 years old. I think that I was one of the first people in that playground on the courts there. And I always tease my younger brother Jackie, who's a basketball legend, Jackie Ryan, Blackjack, that I'm the all-time scorer in that playground, not him, because I had 4 more years than he did. But truthfully, he put a few more in the hoop than I did.
Listen, I've seen video. I've never met his brother that he's speaking on, but he sent me videos, and I don't think I've watched 3 separate videos. I haven't seen him miss a shot yet, including half-court shots. So I could definitely, I could tell he was a great player, and I would love to meet him, and hopefully one day I will, and get to play with him. Hopefully.
You know what? I'll get him here for an interview.
All right. Perfect.
You can do him on What Would Vinny Do?
Perfect. That would be great. That'd be great. So it sounds kind of similar to what I grew up in the Bronx over here. A lot of people think of the Bronx and they think of like Fort Apache with like Paul Newman. Over here we had the same thing. The kids were out. We played manhunt. And I kind of feel bad for kids now that they don't have that anymore. Like you know what I mean? But I don't. Is it what changed that? Do you think? Like, well, why don't they have it anymore?
So when I was a kid growing up, I was born in 1957, right? So the mid '60s every house on the block had 5, 6, 7 kids. Irish birth control was rampant in my neighborhood, right? So when I said before, when I walked out my door, there was 50 kids. There literally was 50 kids on the street that was playing, and every parent was on the porch, and every parent was a parent to everybody.
Right.
And you had to come back when the church bells rang.
Right.
The church was on the block down the other end. You had to come back when the church bells rang for that was dinner time. And then later, as the summer went on, when the street lights went on, then you had to get back home and check in. You could probably go back out, but stay a little bit closer. The Daily News truck came around at 9 o'clock every night. As I get older, that was my job. I had to pick up the Daily News, the night owl. But that really was a way of them knowing where I was. My grandparents raised me.
Okay.
My mom and my stepfather and my brothers and sisters on my mom's side, they lived 3 doors away.
Okay.
But I lived with my grandparents, and that was my 9 o'clock, get the paper. All right, they know where I am. And there'd be, every once in a while, I'd be like, screw this, I'm having a good time, I'm not getting the paper. And then me and my friend Inky, we'd look, here he comes, and there's my grandfather walking around the corner searching for me. And we'd let him see us, and then we'd keep going. So he'd walk like 2 miles trying to find me, right? We'd just be going around in circles. But we'd play jokes. He had a sister who was a little bit older than us. And we would follow her, right? Because we wanted to know the shit she was getting into.
How old were you at this time?
I was probably 11, 12.
Okay.
Right? So she was 15 maybe, right?
Okay.
And she was starting to get into trouble, and there was a disco in the neighborhood, a discotheque, that's what it was, right? And she snuck in there. She was maybe 15, you had to be 18, right? Well, we snuck in there.
Right?
And there we are. There's black lights and people dancing. This is like 1967, 68. We're like, holy shit. We could not believe the things that we were seeing going on.
Right, that's funny. That's funny.
And then she'd catch us and she'd whack us in the head. She'd give me a bloody nose punch. She was tough. Annette Inkabone. She was funny. Very, very tough. Right, Annette? I'm going to make sure you listen to this.
So you're hanging out and you're having a good time. When is it that you start to think about work? You mentioned the Daily News. Is there some kind of, you said your grandparents raised you. Is the work instilled in you from your grandparents? Like when does that start?
No,
and how does that start?
My grandmother was the toughest woman I've ever met in my life. I mean, she literally told a nun, "You hit my grandson again, you're gonna have to take your habit off because you and I are gonna go at it."
That's great.
She was tough as nails, but more love. So my grandparents, Phil and Anna was in it. I named my company on Wall Street Phil Anna Capital after my grandparents. Right?
Nice. My mom's name is Anna as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, she was Anna May, right? And my daughter is Anna Ray. My real name is Raymond. I can thank my ex-wife. She came up with that name. The strength that my grandparents had in raising me allowed me, maybe believe that when a certain time came in my life, it was necessary that I raise my daughter on my own. And I had to fight for her because my ex-wife didn't want me to have her. But I knew that it was better for my daughter if I did. And I basically shut down my business on Wall Street. I didn't care about money. I said, it kept going through my head, I don't care if I lose every penny I have. I need to win custody of my daughter. And I fought very hard, and I did win. I won full custody of her, and I've raised her by myself, pretty much by myself. I lived with a girl for a few years and intervening, but since she was 3 years old, and she's my big why. She's my reason.
Nice, that's great.
If it wasn't for my grandparents raising me at an advanced age, right? They were in their 50s and 60s when they raised me. I don't think that I would have had the strength or the willingness to go ahead and do that.
So when you say raise it solely, or she got to see her sometimes, or it was always like that, like
she always had the opportunity to. She didn't always take advantage of that.
Okay.
But it was me. It was me and my little girl. Still
nice.
is. She's my best friend.
That's great. I love to hear that. Obviously, my 3 children are my why, and I think a lot about my legacy and the things my father kind of did for me, and I want to pay it forward, do the same thing for my children, and hopefully their children.
Yeah.
To me, that's what it's about, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. There is no more important job in the world, no matter what you do, than raising your children, in my opinion. And maybe that comes from I had like a semi-broken family. I lived with my grandparents, not with my mom, even though she was right there. It just didn't happen. And my dad, I didn't meet my father until I was 11 years old. After him and my mom broke up when I was, I wasn't even born yet, in fact. And he joined the Marines right after that. And when he came out of the Marines, he was very young. He was just turned 19 when I was born. And he had trouble finding the path to reestablish contact.
With you?
Well, with my mom, too.
Okay.
He sent us child support checks and everything like that, but he couldn't find the way to show up in my life.
Did you hold it against him?
No, I just couldn't wait to meet him. In fact, I met him on my 11th birthday. My grandparents, his parents, called my mom and said, "Look, could you bring Randy out to Garden City?" That's where they lived. And no mention was made of my father, right? Just that they wanted to meet me. So we went out there. It was a Sunday, and my father just happened to show up after his own baseball game. And he shows up in a baseball uniform, right? He played softball, on a dirt league and fast pitch. And of course, he's got 2 gloves. And we have this catch that I've been waiting my whole life to have. It was very, very emotional.
That's awesome.
And it gets better because years later, I went down to work down on Wall Street with my father, and we became super close, super close. I worked for his company for a while, and then I went out on my own. But being on the floor with him every day, and
so you became close later on, or was it gradual? Like you said, it was hard for him to make the approach he does this day, and now you're saying you're super close, but that took time, or you were just all in?
From 11 to 19, it was a gradual thing.
Okay.
When I was 19, he called me up at work. I didn't go to college. I was working for an accounting firm, and he called me up at work, and he said, I picked it up, I didn't know it was him, and I said, "Hello, City Morgue," and he says, "I guess you're ready to find a new job, right? You're tired of working there," and I said, "Yeah, I am." So he said, "Well, why don't you come down to Wall Street and give it a try?" So I said, "All right, I'll do that." And so I couldn't start till September, and it was June, and I was like, "Great, I'm taking the summer off." So that's right. Nice. And I enjoyed my last summer, and then I went down to work on Wall Street, and I almost immediately realized how much I loved it. This was, on busy days, it was crazy. It seemed like the day took a half an hour to go through a whole day. And on slow days, to release the tension and the pressure of the high-stakes trading that was done down there, we just broke balls. It was like hanging out on the corner with, my friends growing up. Right. I mean, really, playing practical jokes on each other and everything.
Right.
I loved it. It was super competitive. It was like playing sports. But me and my father became really good friends over there.
So I want to stay with the relationship. If that's okay. We're going to talk about Wall Street, but I'm just really I'm interested in. So 11, you go to see him. So was there ever a point I know people whose father's not in their life, and there comes a certain point where they don't want them to be in their life anymore. Do you think if it would have been any longer, if you would have been 18, you would have still, let's go play ball? You don't think it would have ever been a point where you would have said, it's too late, Dad? You understand what I mean?
Yeah, probably would have been.
Okay.
But he came in at 11, and he really, really tried hard to be a part of mine.
I love that you did that and you accepted it. And sometimes I think, would I be mad and say, where were you? You know what I mean? And I try to think how I would handle that as well. And I love that you made it positive. And people going through stuff with one parent or someone supporting. If people can do it and be successful, then that means they can do it. A lot of people use that excuse as a crutch, right? You said, look at what you said. That's why your why is to raise your daughter and make sure you're with her all the time, mm-hmm. right? You did what you're supposed to do.
My mom was a beautiful, wonderful woman. The sweetest thing in the world. No one ever has a bad word to say about her. She's not here anymore. She left us almost 20 years ago. But my father, I found out he was a great guy too. I was amazed when I got to know him, because I really didn't know him, what a good person he was, how honest he was, the level of integrity that he had. And it really gave me a path to continue to follow. I felt like I was on the right path too. For a while I was on the wrong one, but I got off the wrong one. And seeing and working with him on the floor, he was an athlete too. He wasn't just softball. So there was a Wall Street stickball league. There was an empty lot where a huge building had been, and we had the Wall Street stickball league pitching in. Right now, I could throw the ball through the wall. I had a cannon for an arm. Literally, there was one guy in the neighborhood that had a better arm than me.
How old were you at this time? You were in Wall Street. When did you start? 19?
I was 19 years old.
Okay.
So I was probably 22 the year we had the stick ball.
Okay.
And the one guy that could throw the ball harder than me in the neighborhood, he played 7 years in minor league baseball. He would have made it to the pros if he didn't get hurt every year. Jackie Murphy.
But stickball anyway, you're throwing a Spalding. You're not throwing a hardball, right? So it's,
right, but you still
you can throw out your arm. It's light, right? It's like because your wiffle ball hurts your arm after a
Well,
while.
actually, we played with a tennis ball because of the size of the field.
Okay.
So I'm like, we got this stick ball league. I'm going to pitch, right? I thought, where you going? I said, I'm going to pitch. He said, no, I'm pitching. Now he's 40. I'm 22. He's 41 or something like that, right? And I said, Dad, let me pitch. Look at how I can throw the ball. He said, I'm pitching.
I love him already because I would do the same thing with my son.
After I lose, you can pitch.
Right? Yeah. You get in the
we
pen.
went 11-0.
That's
we went 11-0. We won the championship game 1-0. I hit a home run. He threw a shutout.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, but the point I was talking about before, that catch, right? Because this is really, to me, this is like the story of my life. So, my father had a couple of strokes, and he was 53, and he would stay. When he was trying to come back to work, he would stay over my house on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights. He would take off Mondays and Fridays. He'd work Tuesday to Thursday, but he'd stay over my apartment in the city. And we'd go out to dinner. We'd go out to a movie, this, that, and the other. So we go to see Field of Dreams, right? Now, what is the real point of Field of Dreams? It's the catch that he has with his father when his father comes walking out of those, that he was waiting all those years. I'm tearing up now. I looked at my father. He's crying his eyes out. And I'm crying my eyes out in the movie theater. I'm close to crying now. I waited for 11 years to have that catch. And when I saw it, I had no idea if that was the point of the movie of Field of Dreams. But we saw it together. I'm so happy that we did. So.
I don't even think I knew that was the point of the movie. And I saw it. I thought it was about you build it, they will come, and making the field, right? But that's the part that resonated.
At the end of the movie,
of course, yeah.
At the end of the movie, he's sitting there waiting, and he wanted the father to be a part of his life. And his father comes walking out of the corn stalks all the way at the back. You remember that? Yeah. So anyway, that hits me deeply. So that's what you want, right? You want me bawling?
Not at all. But I just I love it. I mean, it's good stuff. And so you're 19 years old. Besides stickball, what's going on Wall Street? Like, what is the work like? Like, because people see it, a lot of people don't understand it, right? So can you kind of make it simplify what your job is and what's going on there? You know what I mean? When everybody's screaming and everybody's there. So what's happening?
So I traded options, right? But I'll simplify it with stock because it's the same thing. The options is a derivative of the stock, and that's all based on math. And I failed algebra twice, but then I came to love math when I went down on the floor because I had a reason to like math now, right? But if you wanted to buy a stock, who are you going to buy it from? All of the people in the world that want to buy and sell stock their orders would come to the same exact place.
So meaning I want to buy a stock. I want to buy a stock in Coca-Cola. Right. So I go at TD Ameritrade or one of these things, or this wasn't even back then. This didn't exist.
You call Merrill Lynch.
Okay, I call Merrill Lynch or Fidelity.
And your broker at Merrill Lynch would call the clerk in the booth on the floor, surrounding the floor, and he'd say, buy 100 shares of IBM.
It doesn't matter who. It's a random person, like by luck they pick up the phone? Or?
No. Merrill Lynch had their own clerk on the floor.
Okay.
The clerk would take your order on the phone. He'd write it on a little ticket. He'd look for the broker that worked for Merrill Lynch that was out on the floor, and he'd hand signal to him, buy 100 shares of IBM. That broker would walk to the crowd where IBM was traded, and then he would say to the specialist who was in charge of all of the traders in the crowd that are trading IBM, I need to buy 100 shares of IBM. The specialist would then say, you bought 100 shares from either himself, the specialist, or from one of the orders that were on the book, wherever the lowest price could be found, that's where you would buy it from. It might be from another trader in the crowd, but the specialist was in charge of making sure that the trades were executed properly, that if you were trying to sell it at 41 and Edie was trying to sell it at 42, that if someone wanted to buy it, they bought it from you, not from Edie, because she wanted a higher price. In charge of maintaining the marketplace.
Is that still the way it goes on today?
No, the specialists have basically disappeared.
Okay.
Electronic trading has eliminated the need for us on the floor. Well, sometimes, I don't know, but sometimes there are really, really hectic markets, and now liquidity has disappeared, and all of the buyers disappear, and things drop so super fast. That's why you had that flash crash, I don't know if you remember, about 9 years ago, and you can have markets that drop so fast that they have circuit breakers that basically stop the trading. In the past, back then, the specialists, once or twice a year, they would have to put their house on the line, right? Everything they own, they would be buying stock knowing that if it keeps going down, they're out of business and they've lost everything. But usually when you got to that point, the market was pretty much really oversold and it was ready to start climbing again. Being a specialist was a very, very lucrative business.
So how were you able to get in there? You said you didn't go to college, so you don't need a license to do this. Was it that your father was there that he put you in that spot?
So I worked for my father for about 6 months, and I did not get along with one of his partners. And I went over to I had heard about another job that was available, and they traded options. My father didn't trade options; he just traded stocks. And I spoke to the head guy there, Norman Leff, his name was, and I applied for the job.
But this is all just luck, and you're going because your father, or this is something you knew you wanted to do?
No, he didn't. In fact,
well, I mean, from going there in the yeah. Did you think I'm going to work at the stock when I'm a kid?
I didn't want to work where he worked. Right. I only went there because I was really struggling working for this accounting firm. I was making $135 a week, and
what year is this? You remember? What did you say?
1977.
Okay.
I was working my tail off, and I hated it. It was just boring. Right. So my father brings me down. He says, "But you know what?
Oh, that's when he called you when you said City Morgue.
You got to take a pay cut.
Right.
$115 a week because the senior partner didn't want to pay any more than that." And my father said, "Don't worry, I'll get you more money." So after 6 months, they gave me a raise to like $140 a week. And
is that the wages at that time, or
it was a little bit low? It was a little. So now option trading was exploding on Wall Street, and I kept looking at over there at this post, and they were always super busy.
But you're a kid. You don't have many expenses, right? You were a kid.
I lived at home.
So if it was a man, like for you to make that money, was it when I was a kid making $300 a week at 3? I was rich. You know what I mean? I had no expenses, right?
2 years before that, I was still in high school, right? And I had worked for an oil company. They laid me off, right? I had split session in high school. I would get out of work out of school at 12 o'clock. I'd go to work from 12:30 until like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, and they paid me good money. But then they laid me off. Somebody said, "You go collect unemployment." So I said, "Come on." They said, "Go try it." I went down. I'm in high school collecting $50 a week in unemployment, right?
Nice.
And I would drive out to Military Ocean Terminal in Bayonne, the piers where my stepfather worked, and I'd load trucks, 2 trucks a night, 36,000 pounds of hamburger beef coming from Australia, and pick up $40 a night cash.
So it sounds like you had a pretty good
$250 a week in high school.
As a kid, right?
Oh yeah, no, I've always worked hard. I always wanted money in my pocket, but I was making $250 a week cash in my pocket in high school. Now I'm making $140 a week with taxes taken out too, and I'm like, this.
Right.
So when I see the option job was opening up, I said, "Dad, I'm going to apply for this job because with Joe here, I'm not going anywhere." So I go and apply for the job. They hire me. A few days later, Norman Leff comes up to me, and Norman was a really stuffed shirt. Right? He goes, "Son, I understand that your father works on this floor too." And I said, "Yes, he does, Norman." And I'm a 20-year-old kid, right? And he says, "Well, I can't hire you. Then that would be highly inappropriate." And I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "He wants me. He wants me to learn options." He said, "Well, I'm going to go speak to your dad, and we'll see what he says about this." So he went over and talked to my dad. And my father said, "Look, Norman, I'm very happy about it. Teach him everything that you can." He said, and if he doesn't cut it, fire his ass, right? I went over there, $200 a week. I'm like, this is great. Now I'm starting. It was the most amazing summer of my life. I started there on July 5th, the day after 4th of July. I'm there a week. They give me a raise to $225. Because I know how to file orders. The next week, Norman comes over to me and says, "Son, we had a very good month here. We're going to give you an extra week's pay." And I'm like, "Okay, great."
Is there a lot of people doing the job? Is there a staff?
No, it wasn't just me. The whole company, all the clerks
Okay.
got an extra week's pay.
Okay. But meaning what you were doing with this guy Norman, was there a lot of people in like he was the boss of the whole floor, or was it?
No, he was the boss of his. So
yeah, you were working for one little group.
Think of the exchange like a real estate brokerage.
Okay.
It's an umbrella. It's like Corcoran or Keller Williams or any of the real estate brokerages. And underneath that umbrella, there's a lot of little smaller firms, sometimes individuals,
Okay.
operating underneath that umbrella.
Gotcha.
There was probably 20 people that worked for our company, broke and left.
Gotcha.
And when we had a good month, maybe there was 8 partners and 12 clerks. We had a really good month. They'd give everybody an extra week's pay. That was commonplace on Wall Street at the time when it was a good month. But the next week he comes up and he says, "Son, we had another really good week. We're going to give you another extra week's pay."
But are you a direct cause to this good week, or you're going to ride?
No, I'm just part of.
Are you going to start at 5? Or are you the 12 man on the bench that's getting the ring? You understand what I'm saying? Are you causing the week, or you're just?
No. The traders cause it. Right?
Okay.
The traders
Right.
and the market itself causes just so much activity.
Right. Okay.
But you got to make sure that you get every trade in the book. There's people screaming pandemonium, right? Buy this, sell this.
So you're playing a part, and
Yes.
you're a link in the chain that's making it happen, right?
2 weeks later, we're going to give you 2 weeks. I'm like, by the time the summer was over, I had gotten 8 extra weeks pay.
And you were telling your father, was he surprised, or he was like?
He was beaming. He was so happy.
That's great.
I had gotten a raise the first week there. I got 8 extra weeks pay over the course of the summer. Christmas time comes. I'm with the company 6 weeks. Everybody in the company gets 26 weeks bonus for Christmas. I got 13 weeks because I only there half a year. 13 weeks. I'm like, are you crazy?
Right. As a kid,
I could not believe this.
So is this a job where you could see yourself as a career job? You know how like when you go to look for that career job with a Con Ed or something, can you stay here all year, or your whole life and make a career out of this? Where you are you thinking that's going to happen?
So I thought you could. So the senior partner of my father's company was about 90 years old, Lou Herman. The word was that during the Depression, he was riding around in a chauffeur-driven Rolls. He owned a full floor apartment, and I believe it was the Sherry Netherland Hotel, right on the corner of like 59th Street and Central Park West, Fifth Avenue. More money than God, right?
What was the
he
crash?
Still came to
what
the
was
week.
the big crash? The first one was it in '69 or why do I have that year?
No. The crash was '87.
'87.
When I was there, it was a crash in '29.
Okay.
Right.
So when you were there, the first one is okay. So I just.
No, I may look at it, but I wasn't there.
So you're thinking you're going to do this the rest of your life. This is your first year.
He came to the floor 3 times a week. He's 90 years old. And I said to my father, I said, "Dad, why does he come to the floor?" He said, "Because he loves it. He loves what he does. This is it. He gets in your blood, Randy. You're going to want to come when you're 92. And I always figured I would.
And you loved it.
Yes, I would.
Do you get health benefits, or you made enough money that you didn't need it at that point?
I was 19.
How about your dad?
Nobody worried about health benefits.
Nobody worried about
Nobody
it. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
You could get health insurance for $40 a month.
That's funny.
Right. So, and then 2 years later, they bought a seat, put me on the seat, and I became the youngest specialist on the floor.
Nice.
And back then, it wasn't because I was so great. I was really good, but the business was changing. Options were becoming a really big thing on Wall Street. Prior to that, you would work 20 years before you got a chance to get your company would buy you a seat. Here I was. I'm 3 years on the floor, and I became a member in 1980. But it was because the option business was exploding, and they needed more people down the floor.
Is it the same thing as like a realtor? Like you're putting in like working on the weekend, or is it 9 to 5? You punch in, you punch out, it's over. What were you having 20?
9:30 to 4.
Okay.
9:30 to 4. No lunch. You eat while you're trading, right? But you got lunch for free. They'd send out 25 hamburgers or whatever. Go send to DeFonte's Hero Shop in Brooklyn, and it's put one of the kids in a taxi and go get 20 heroes or 25 heroes.
So that's it. And then after 4, you don't even think about the job, and you didn't have to do any work at home, be prepared or anything. You don't find yourself on the weekend doing something.
So the clerks had to stay for another half an hour, right? And they'd have to be in a little bit earlier in the morning. But the brokers, you had to be there for the opening bell, and you stayed until the closing bell. But if you wanted to be really good at your craft, right, you went through chart books, you tried to find different anomalies in option pricing so that you could because the ability to make so much money was there just by being a little bit righter than the guy next to you. So you wanted to. I fell in love with it. I would spend hours at night. I'm 22 years old. And I'm doing charts. I'm trying to figure out different algorithms, mental algorithms. We didn't have computers back then, but looking at trying to find different vagaries in volume. Stocks went up and stocks went down, and I was doing a thing called on-balance volume to try and predict which way the market was going to go. I found that to be so fascinating that.
Was it like gambling? It sounds kind of like gambling. Was it like gambling or not really?
Any investing has risk, right?
Right.
Gambling has risk. I like to think this is as an educated risk, right? So you could have a much better shot. It's not like betting on the flip of a coin.
Right.
We'll go into a casino. It's.
Are you the house? Maybe is it the odds because you're.
Well, I'll tell you what. As traders, specialists and traders, eventually I came to realize that we were the house. We were taking whatever bet you wanted to make, I would take at my price. So there's a thing called volatility, and that is a pricing model for option value. And if we deemed an option to be worth 2.5, we would say, I'll make a market 2 3/8, 5/8. I mean, if you want to buy it, you got to pay 2 5/8. You want to sell it, you got to sell it at 2 3/8. Sort of like a bookie making a line, right? 6.5, 7.5 on the Yankee game tonight. And if too many people bet 7.5, then it goes 7-8. Well, we would move the volatility when too much action came in on one side. And,
all right, so things are going good. You're living the dream, and then how long is this going on for? And then what happens? Is there a snag somewhere? What?
Oh yeah, there's lots of snags.
Okay.
So I worked at that company for 2 more years, and there was one guy there that. He sort of put a glass ceiling above me at the company, and he was the real rising star at the company, and I knew there was no way that I was getting around that. And the New York Futures Exchange was starting, so I said, you know what? I'm going to go over to the New York Futures Exchange. I'm going to trade there. So I put up some money on my own. I took some money from a couple of investors, family members, and friends, and I went over to trade futures. It was different than trading stocks or options, but I had to trade, right?
This is how long in? And are you living down there? Are you still living at home? Like, are you making enough money to go out on your own?
This is 1982. I would live with my girlfriend in Sheepshead Bay.
Okay.
We lived in Manhattan for a little while, but we had problems with the apartment in Waterside Plaza. We ended up moving to Sheepshead Bay.
But you're doing well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, doing well.
Especially for that time.
But then I went over to the exchange.
Okay.
And in 2 months, I lost $50 of the $60,000 that I went over there with.
Okay.
And it was like,
is it bad luck, or the market just started doing bad in general?
No, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I thought that I understood trading, which I did, but I didn't realize that trading commodities, which futures are a commodity, even though it was a commodity, a future on the stock market. And I blew out. And I was I was beating myself up a lot. And
at the time, was your father still down? He watched the good. Is he watching this happen?
Yeah, oh yeah, sure. No, he was one of the partners. He was one of the investors. He's watching. It's like
he wasn't. He was not too happy.
He was not too happy. Right? But I got a phone call from a guy by the name of Peter Kellogg, who was the head guy at a company called Spielys and Kellogg, and that's where I kept my money, my trading account money, and they cleared my trades, right? And he asked me to come up to come see him. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to read the riot act from this guy too, right? So he comes in, he's got a sandwich on his desk, and he's about to eat lunch, and he gives me half the sandwich. Tell me what went wrong. I'm like, okay, all right. I did this when I should have done that. I did this when I should have done that. We talked for about an hour. At the end of the hour, he writes me a check for $50,000, not from his company, personally. And he says, you'll pay me back when you can. I think you're going to do well in this business, kid. Now, he knew that if I lost the money, all right, he lost 50 grand. But if I didn't lose the money, he knew that he had a client for life. That there was no way in the world I was ever going to do business with any other clearing firm on Wall Street. I paid him back in 3 months. And I stayed there for another year, but it really wasn't. I wanted to go back to the American Stock Exchange where I started. So I closed up shop. I went back and I became a specialist for a guy by the name of Izzy Englander, who today runs one of the largest hedge funds in the world. Izzy is an incredible businessman, and he put together multiple companies on Wall Street. And I worked for him until 1990, and in 1990 I went out on my own, started my own company, Filani Capital, like I said before, named after my grandparents. And that still is in existence, but as a trading company, we stayed on the floor until early 2002. 9/11 happened. I was in the middle of that crazy divorce and custody battle with my ex-wife. My apartment got destroyed. It was, right the closest building and the closest corner to the trade center. And luckily, I had a beach house that I could go live in. And I said, you know what? I don't believe the bull crap that they're saying, Christy Todd Whitman, that the air is clean down in Battery Park City, because I knew that it wasn't. So I said, you know what? I'm going to spend the next few years just getting to know my daughter. I had enough money left over from my divorce. And I went to the beach with my daughter almost every day when the weather was, we could, and we became good friends. We bonded for 3 years. And then when she was time for her to start school, we moved back to Battery Park City. And she had become this incredible athlete. So I had a house on the ocean in Breezy. And halfway between my house and...
So you had no income those 3 years?
No, but I just lived off my savings.
Nice.
But there was a playground halfway between my house along the beach, and my daughter lived at this playground. And she became she was naturally strong. She could, by the time we went back to Manhattan, she could do 7 or 8 one-arm pull-ups like this. And she's 5.5, 6 years old.
I can't do it.
I couldn't do it. I look at her in amazement, but she spent her whole day playing in this playground, just swinging. She loved it so much. So I took her to be in a gymnastic camp, and after like 2 days, when I picked her up, one of the coaches said, we'd like her to try out for the team. She's pretty amazing. And I said, if she wants to, that's fine. And she loved it, right? And then, she'd have to pass muster with the head coach, right? So the head coach will take a look at it. So I'm there, and the head coach goes, and she says, "Can you do a pull-up?" And I said, I started laughing. And she said, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "Show her, Anna." And Anna Ray started doing the one-arm pull-ups, and she said, "Oh my God!" And my daughter, over the next few years, became a level 9 gymnast, which is there's level 10, and then there's elite, which is the Olympians. So she was, on the cusp of, but she broke a bone like 3 years in a row in both of her, 2 in one and 1 in the other feet. She
doing
gymnastics, yeah. Yes. Her solar plexus, she fractured her sternum on the trampoline. You're supposed to put your hands in a fist on your chest, only she didn't land on the soft part of the trampoline. She landed on the edge, and with her fist in a ball, it fractured her sternum.
There were a lot of injuries in gymnastics?
Oh, yeah. A huge amount. And the coaches are like, they're all these, the Russians and everything, and it's
pushing. Yeah.
So she said, "Dad, I think I want to quit." And I said, "Thank you."
Great idea.
So I want to kill the coaches that are pushing her.
Right.
And I said, my only rule is you got to find another sport. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's softball or basketball or soccer. You just got to do something athletically. And she said, "All right." And then a few weeks later, she said, "I think I want to try diving." It was about to go into the summer. She said, "Can I go to a diving camp?" So I said, "Sure." There was one. We found one in West Point, and it turns out that a lot of gymnasts, most divers, have gymnastic backgrounds, the same core strength, twisting their bodies in the air, and she's an incredible diver. So the head coach there he was the head coach of West Point diving team, but also the head coach of West Point club team. And he convinces me to drive back and forth to West Point and my daughter convinces me, really, because they said, "Well, why don't you join the team down here?" Well, there is none, because there's only 3 diving platforms in the New York City area. There's one in Long Island, one in West Point and one out in New Jersey. So I start driving 5 times a week to West Point, and she makes the nationals her first year. She makes the nationals her second year. She's really probably a better diver than she was a gymnast. And she came in 4th on the platform at the nationals, 30 feet up in the air. While I was in the hospital, she was in Minneapolis. I'm in the hospital having open heart surgery. So with this on her head, she's still that good that there's one dive, she scored the highest score of the entire event. Probably 200 kids at the event, all different ages. She had a 9.1, I think it was. And it was such a thing of beauty. I have it on my Facebook page.
Nice.
I'll show it to you.
I'm sure. Yeah, definitely. That's cool.
So she's my pride and joy, as you can tell, right? But
that's great.
Yeah.
So real estate is nowhere on the horizon yet, and like, well, this is going on.
So as my daughter's doing gymnastics, I'm thinking about going back to work in Wall Street. The floors are basically no longer profitable. Technology has changed the way that we do business. The exchanges are concerned about somebody flying a plane into the
I was just going to say that.
Exchange.
Can I ask you, like, you would probably know this, after 9/11, could you have bought property in Manhattan for nothing? Were people scared? And
Not nothing. There was a significant discount.
Really?
Especially, we didn't know what was going on, right? We didn't know whether there were going to be more attacks and everything like that.
So people were scared. A lot of people didn't want to go to Manhattan anymore. I remember that, right?
Do you know where Spiegel's was?
I don't.
Spiegel's is a sporting goods store downtown Nassau Street, Manhattan. And then Herman's opened up right across the street. They put Spiegel's out of business. It was a vacant store. Right after 9/11, it became a store that sold survival gear, gas masks and things like that. And you could not get in the store. It was so crowded with people. I went and I bought stuff.
Right.
Because, I want to be prepared. If it happens again.
Yeah, people were bugging out. Yeah.
Right.
And rightfully so, right?
Yeah. Listen, I went out to Breezy Point, right, to my house. And then about a month later, a plane crashes 2 miles away from my house in Rockaway. And a few weeks before that, there's a fire. They did the concert for New York City, right? There's a fireman up on the stage, and he announces to the crowd, to Bin Laden, "You can kiss my Irish ass. I'm from Rockaway, Queens." A week later, a plane crashes in Rockaway. It's like, are you kidding me? Right? So where was I? I got a little bit lost.
No, we were talking about if there was real estate anywhere on the horizon. You said how things have changed since 9/11. That's why we started talking.
So I thought about going back to work for a hedge fund, but I'm now a single parent, 24/7, 7 days a week of my daughter, and I'm trading a little bit from off the floor. I'm not making any money. My skill set is in looking in someone's eyes and getting a read on whether they're telling the truth about they want to buy 10,000 or they want to buy 100,000. I can't get those hints, those clues from looking at a computer screen, and I can't figure out why I'm not trading better and not making more money or not making money. Period. So I went through a few years of trying to make this work, and I finally said, you know what? I went back to the commodity exchange for a while. That was dying too.
Were you still having fun, or it wasn't the same anymore? Was it even? If you're not doing well,
it's not fun when you lose.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I was just going to say that. I can answer my own question.
Good days are great, but bad days are really terrible, right? And as long as the good days can outbalance, it's great. But when you just, I lose a little here, lose a little there.
Even in real estate,
very frustrating.
Fun, right? We have those bad days when everything just seems like it's collapsing on you, right?
Real estate's great. It's 1% of the fun that trading on the floor was.
I'm sure the rush, right? It was just a different level, right?
Other than being a professional athlete, there was nothing else I would have rather done in my life. And I would have done that till I was 90, right? So 2007, I finally said, you know what? I got to throw the towel in on this. It's not working anymore. My skills don't translate well to trading behind the screen. I don't want to go work for a hedge fund because I don't want to do a mediocre job at that and a mediocre job at raising my daughter. So, you know what? I'm going to go into real estate. I had been a real estate investor previously. It'll give me flexibility of hours. I can pick my daughter up at school, take her to gymnastics at Chelsea Piers. I can open up my laptop while up on the parents' balcony up there, and I can do whatever I need to do there. Like the gym right there.
So it just out of the sky, or someone you knew was doing it? What made you think of real estate?
A friend of mine, Mark, he was working at Corcoran, and he said, Randy, look, there's people coming in, they're putting their feet up on the desk and they're making $200,000 a year just because there's so much business coming in the door, and business was booming. So I get my license.
Is that true? Because I've never seen that. Like, I actually see the opposite, where people think they're gonna get their license, make $1 million, and don't realize how hard.
Well, what year did you start?
How long am I doing this? Probably like after 2010, like that.
Okay, so
maybe a little earlier, maybe not, maybe 08, maybe 09.
2006, 7. Things were just lying. People just walk in and just do business. Like the walk-in business in the retail stores was.
But didn't a lot of those people? Because I know people in the market down here that made a lot of money when everything, and then when the market shifted, they were out of the business. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I started. I got my license in December of 07. I went into Corcoran's training program, and I started in January of 2008. January of 2008 was the peak in Manhattan real estate prices, and sales just fell off a cliff from there. And I'm like, man, I got this dark cloud following me around, right? Between 9/11 and then the stock market business really basically changed dramatically. Now I come into real estate, and the busiest agent in the city the previous year had done like 380 deals. In 2008, he did 3. That's how much business dropped off. And now you got all these really experienced agents competing for a very small piece of the pie. For a rookie agent, it was very, very difficult. And I was lucky. I didn't have a lot of bills. I didn't have a mortgage or anything.
It didn't sound like you were hard pressed to be successful. Usually the why can be people are starving. They need to make the money. You weren't in that.
I didn't have desperation.
Right? Yeah, on your side. Right?
I was lucky.
That's good.
I had made enough money over the years. But believe me, from my peak to where I was at that point, it had dissipated between, attorneys got rich, my ex-wife got a chunk, and I spent the chunk. So if you're making a lot of money in the stock market, you can make a lot of money 6 out of 7 years, and then you have a bad year. But the next year you're going to make a lot of money. You can, so you continue to live the same way, right? And then you have 2 bad years, you live a little bit less, and then a little bit less. But you're still living pretty good as you're going all the way down. Until all of a sudden you're like, oh my God. And that happened to me over a period of about 5 years, from 2002 to 2007. And I realized, I've taken a huge chunk out of my net worth, and I got to start to rebuild this. So then the first year in real estate was very, very difficult. And then things got a little bit better. And then I left to go over to Element. I worked there for 2 years, and then I had a health issue.
This is all in Manhattan.
Yeah. Well, no, I started out at Corcoran in Brooklyn Heights.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think doing real estate in Manhattan is different than like New York, Queens, like Queens and Bronx?
Queens, yes. Brooklyn, depends on what part of Brooklyn you're working in. So Rebney, Real Estate Board of New York, dominates Manhattan. It's 90% of the agents are in Rebney. And they also dominate the brownstone neighborhoods in Brooklyn. And it's filtering out even further and further, like out in Bay Ridge now, and it's starting to filter into Sheepshead Bay and further out that way. The mom and pop businesses that were the Brooklyn MLS, they're shrinking, and they're finding it harder to hold on to market share. They do business differently. Rebney, commissions are strongly 5-6%. You go out into the mom and pop areas, and you'll find people do deals for 2 and 3%.
That's what happens here too.
Yeah, and
you see the mom and pop with the signs,
right.
3 flat fees and stuff like that.
And to me, the seller is not benefiting from that. They think they're benefiting,
right?
But they don't realize that your listing is not going to get widespread knowledge among the buyer community, because the agent that took the listing.
Right.
He's only getting 2% or 3%. He doesn't want to share that.
Right. I always tell everybody, you're fighting for that point. The point's not for me. I'm fighting for you, the seller. I'm going to give it to somebody else.
Share it.
Yeah, and to get more people to come there. That point is worth so much more than you think it is. For you, not for me. I'm not even getting it.
I want to take that and entice every other agent. Because you don't want just the people that are in my book of business.
Yep.
You want the people that are in every other agent's book of business.
I remember I had this woman's like, I just sold her house. I did an amazing job. And she goes, I'll give you a flat fee. I'm like, why? first of all, I don't want to take a flat fee because I'd be doing a disservice to you to take a flat fee because I wouldn't be able to get the people here like I did last time.
Do you want me to spend money on good photography?
Yeah.
Do you want me to spend money on advertising your product?
You'll make more money for yourself. I said, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make you more money. You're right. That's, if I wanted to do that, I would say yes. Exactly. I'm not trying to do that.
I always say, are you concerned with how much money I'm going to make?
That's it.
Or are you concerned with how much money you're going to make? Because I want to put, the more money that I put in your pocket, it doesn't matter what I get paid.
That's right.
If I can get you $100,000 more for your house, do you care how much money I made? You get $100,000 more in your pocket. What difference does it make?
Exactly.
So.
And by the way, I got that listed in Riverdale. Remember we thought?
Congratulations.
I did it the way we said I should do it. And
Good.
Yes, and it worked out good.
I'm glad to hear that.
So thank you.
No worries. So I worked with Elliman, and then I got sick. Knock on wood, I got cancer, but I've been cancer-free since September of 2011. And I worked there for, I guess, 2 years, and then I started trading again from home. And went through some more money. That didn't work because
you couldn't get out of your blood.
It's still in my blood.
Start trading again soon.
When I'm at home working, I've got my computer screen is on. I can see NBC on the back.
Do you have a lot of stocks that you own?
No.
Okay.
I'm
You're like a bartender. You don't want to drink the supply.
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's just that there's a difference between investing and trading, right? And all this time when I was losing money, I was trading. Right, trading, you can buy something and sell it out a couple of minutes later. So, investing is different. Investing is for the long haul. I do some of that now, but I'm not. When I first left the floor, I thought I was a big man on campus, right? And I continued to trade off the floor the way I did when I was on the floor. When I was on the floor, I was a gunslinger. I would take some really big shots. I had a full head of hair when I started on the floor, right? Yeah, you want to get that?
So, right.
So, and then when I started, I went over to Keller Williams after 2 years, and initially I had struggled there too because I got sick again. I had the open heart surgery, and but after that was resolved, I partnered up with the guy that basically saved my life. Did I ever tell you this story?
No.
This is a great story.
Right. Who's, by the way, is this the doctor that I met? Okay.
This is such a most amazing coincidence.
Right.
So my first day at Keller Williams, I'm a late addition to the orientation class that's going on. And I go in and I sit down, and they pass out a piece of paper that has printed names on it already. And I look at it and I see David Reis. And I said, you got my name wrong. It's Randy Reis. And the guy next to me elbows me and he says, I'm David Reis. Spelled the same way, which is not a common spelling of it. So after the class is over, we talk a little bit, and we realize our backgrounds are very different from your typical real estate agent. He's a cardiologist who moved to the corporate side of healthcare after doing open heart surgery for 15 years, and he did that, worked in the corporate side for 15 years, and then his company got taken over. So he has a thesis that the healthcare real estate industry is going to change dramatically as we march toward a single payer system for insurance purposes. And that all these doctors that overpaid for Park Avenue offices are now struggling because the regulatory environment means their paperwork is so onerous, and they're now getting paid close to Medicaid rates on all of the surgeries that they do, and they can't overcharge anymore. And they can't get out of their offices because the new doctors that are coming out of school, medical school, they're all going to work for healthcare systems instead of taking private practice businesses and they can't do anything with these. So they overpaid by 20% to get it because they wanted a Park Avenue address. Then they got to sell it for 20% underwater, and they look at somebody on the second floor with the exact same footprint apartment going for so much more money, they can't get themselves to accept, yes, just sell it. And in the meantime, they're getting hurt more and more, especially now we're in a softer market. They're really starting to feel some pain. So he wanted to help these doctors.
So I met David, by the way, and it was funny what happened with me and him real quick. He said something to me, and then I said something back, and he goes, "Give me a hug." And he hugged me.
He's a great guy. He is. I know 4 people on the Forbes 400 list. I'm sorry, 3 people on the Forbes 400 list from my days on Wall Street, billionaires. He's the smartest guy I know. The doctor is smarter than anybody I know. He's too smart sometimes. But so we compare notes, and
he was in Keller already, or he was just
he
starting
started
that
the
day?
same exact day.
Same day. Okay. So when's this?
This is 2012.
Okay.
So about a year later, he's walking past my cubicle, and I had been feeling some weird.
And this is a Keller in Manhattan.
A Keller in Manhattan on Park Avenue. And I said, "You got a minute, Doc?" And he said, "Sure." I said, "I'm feeling some weird stuff at night. Middle of the night, I wake up and I feel like something shooting in my heart. Like it's not going, and then all of a sudden it blasts through." And he says, "You need to see a cardiologist immediately today." So I leave and I go, and they do a workup on me. It turns out that my aortic valve is 70% closed. And we have a further consultation, and the cardiologist says, "Look, I think that if you want, we can just watch it and see if it gets worse. Because in about 3 years, the surgery is going to change drastically. We'll be able to do it arthroscopically. We won't have to cut you open. It's much less invasive. So I think we should watch and wait." So I said, "Okay." So I go back, working. I still feel this stuff in the middle of the night.
Did you tell him what they found?
Well, he comes by one day,
Right.
and he said, "So what happened?" And I tell him, and he says, "Do you have access to your EKG?" And I said, "Yeah, I got it in an email." He said, "Why don't you send it to me? I'll take a look at it. I'm not going to give you a diagnosis, but I'll give you an understanding from a friend." Sure, I email it to him. Literally 45 seconds later, I got a hand on my shoulder. He says, "You need a second opinion right away." And I'm like, "Whoa, that sounds kind of scary." And he says, "If you want," I lived in Jersey at the time. He said, I'll find out who the valve guru is in New Jersey, and I'll break down the door in front of you and make sure they treat you like a VIP." So 2 days later, I'm in the office of the doctor who is the head of the Gagnon Cardiac Institute at Morristown Hospital. And she gives me like a 2-hour workup, and she literally is the top person there. And at the consultation, she says, "I disagree with your diagnosis. You need to do this immediately." And I'm like, "Oh, my daughter's going out to Minneapolis for the national championship in the dive." She said, "You need to do this right away."
That's when she does the dive, the 9.1.
That's right. So I get my chest cut open, and they change my valve, and that was July 15th. Will be 6 years. Yeah, but the doc saved my life.
So,
and then a year later, we decided to partner up.
Right. And just thinking of this, he's a doctor and he's going to Keller Williams. Why is that happening? Is it that, like, if you're a doctor, or you go to, is it to do it on the side, or he gave up being a doctor to be a realtor?
So he still, to this day, performs pro bono work for his former patients. He doesn't get paid or anything like that at all, but he takes care of those people. But the business of being a doctor ceased to be a viable business for most doctors, or for many. The amount of income that they receive is nothing like it used to. The days of the doctors getting in a Porsche and leaving and driving up to Connecticut, they're pretty much gone.
Dude,
today, most doctors come out of medical school today, go to work for a healthcare system for $175,000 a year, and they got health benefits, and they have no 9 to 5 or whatever their shift is. They go home, they don't worry about nothing.
That's. I mean, I think about, like, a lot of people who go to college, and this is like a debate now. When you take in, and then you end up in the post office, or you end up at the phone company, and you went to college. This is like, he went to be a doctor, and then he ends up being a realtor, right?
Yeah,
that's pretty.
You know what? I'll tell you the truth. For me,
and I'm not gonna say it wasn't worth it because he saved your life, right?
I can imagine how he felt, right? Because he went through how many years of schooling to become a doctor.
Right. I remember seeing people at the post office. I went to school, and they were so mad that they would do now a letter carrier after they went to college. And I said, imagine being a doctor and now you're going to, you know what I mean? So that's even crazy. What is it, 7 years, 10 years?
Well, it's 8. I think it's 8 years of schooling, and then internship and everything like that is residency. But for me, I was a member of the American Stock Exchange. I was a senior floor official. I thought I was big shit, right? And now I'm going to be a real estate agent? Well, I didn't become a real estate agent. I became a secret agent. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't tell anybody my first.
So you think you kind of both also, besides having the last name in common and he saved your life, kind of had that in common as well? What you're saying, how you felt a little like you were on top of the world and now you're going to be a realtor. Maybe he felt that as a doctor, going to be a realtor too, right?
He could have.
Yeah.
No doubt. There's no doubt. He doesn't let on. I'm open. He's a little bit. We're different night and day.
Right.
In so many ways.
Right.
But so he keeps his feelings a little bit more to himself.
Close to the vest,
Me, I don't know, I'll shout him from the roof.
Me too. Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
I am who I am.
Yeah, I
Okay.
tell it that way.
You know, you like me, you don't like me.
Yeah.
I don't. Take your pick. It's all right.
One or the other, right? All right, so talk about the real estate. And,
Sure. So we built a nice business in at Keller Williams. We do residential business in Brooklyn and Manhattan, and now we just brought a buyer agent in who does the Queens area, focuses specifically on Rockaway, and she also does some Brooklyn business. We also do commercial business with a healthcare focus. So we just put together a deal for a assisted living complex in Denver. Right. So we're really not licensed in Denver. So we have a Denver agent who did the deal.
You're talking about now, or you're talking about when you were at Keller, when you met him?
Well, we did it while we were at Keller.
Okay.
We didn't get paid for
Right.
it because commercial deals take such a long time. We got paid in December. Right?
Okay. So, but when you first started Keller, and you guys partnered up immediately, like right after that orientation, or you went a little?
No, it was about a year after my surgery. It was 2014.
Okay. Was he doing well by himself, and you were doing well, and we said this will make us even better, or were you both not figuring it out? I think let's get together.
We felt 1 + 1 = 3.
Gotcha.
Right? So we were both doing enough business that we weren't starving or anything like that. But we thought that if we put our heads together, we could do more.
Because sometimes I've thought of partnering with people and I'm just like, you're gonna bring your business, I'm gonna bring mine, and we're just gonna split it. Like, what is?
It's hard,
right? You know, you gotta make one. You gotta equal 3 to make sense.
Exactly.
If it equals 2, what are we doing it for?
Right.
And a lot of times it can equal not even 2, right? And you start to work harder, and things get weird. So it's got to be the right person and the right fit.
But you know what? You don't want to partner with somebody who's just like you. That's the easiest thing to do,
100%.
right?
100%.
But you want to find somebody who can fill in the blanks for you. The stuff that I can't do.
Your weaknesses. Even talking about hiring people, I take the same approach to that, right? You got to hire people that are going to do what you can't do, right?
Exactly. When you delegate, you don't need to delegate to somebody who's a duplicate of you. You got to find somebody who's better than you at something else that you're not good at.
That's it.
Right?
Mm-hmm. So you just had the yin and the yang, so it was a good fit.
Look, any partnership has its ups and downs and bumps, and but we made a pact when we first started. We said, you know what? And this was him. He said, I come to work every day to make sure that your daughter gets taken care of.
Nice.
And I hope you're going to come to work to make sure my kids get taken care of.
That's awesome.
So we said, we do that. If we try that, we'll get through all the rough spots, and we'll both work very hard. So that's what we do.
That's a great pact. Yeah. Is it strictly business, or are your friends as well? You socialize as well, or is it? You know how some people like when Rodman was on the Bulls, they were successful, right? But Jordan and Rodman didn't like each other. Now I'm not saying you don't like him. Obviously, you like him. Is it, or is it more business than social?
We're very, very different.
Right.
I'm a street kid from Brooklyn.
Right.
He went to Ivy League school.
So you have different things that you're into. So you're not gonna.
He's not into sports. He's into gardening and stuff like that. Me. If you catch me with one of those little shovels in my hand, shoot me.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, I'll go drink some beers in the bar, and one drink, he said, that's enough for me.
Gotcha. Sometimes it's better that way. Like, you know what I mean? And just keep it business. And
I agree 100%.
Right.
I agree.
Okay, so things are going good. Right?
Things are going great, and I love Keller Williams. I think Keller Williams is the greatest company in the real estate business on earth. And I get a phone call from EXP, and I said, you're wasting your breath. I'm not going anywhere. I like it where I am, and I'm sure you can't offer me something that would make me go. An hour later, if I knew if I'm going to do some due diligence, and if everything he tells me is true, I'm going to leave. And it was hard to do because, like I said, I really loved Keller Williams. And I still think that Gary Keller is a genius. He built an incredible model from 1985 until now, or just recently. It was the greatest model, but I think this is different. I think this changes the game. And the reason it hit me so quickly is because of what I went through on the floor of the exchange and watching what was the most incredible business that I ever could have worked in. I made more money than I ever had any right to think that I should make. I had more fun. It all disappeared. And I watched people that loved what they did, who were very confident of what they do, struggle to make $40,000, $50,000 a year. They can't, for a long time, they couldn't get jobs until the economy finally started to turn, and not too long ago. I know people who have said goodbye because they just hit a point where they couldn't face life anymore. And it was all because they couldn't recreate who they were. Because people on the floor really, it was not a job. It was who I was, and it affected me deeply on a personal level. I lost my identity for a long time, and being a real estate agent didn't give it back to me. But being at EXP, there is so much more to this than just being a real estate agent. I'm invigorated for the first time since I worked on the floor of the exchange.
Nice. I just feel like, I mean, and I know friends who people I know who just went to Compass, and they feel the same way you do. It's the company has to fit you. You know what I mean, and your lifestyle,
no doubt.
Right?
One thing that I didn't create the saying, but it really does fit at EXP. It's we're looking for the people who are looking for us.
That's it.
But very often they don't know that they're looking for us. So there are a lot of people out there that try and sell EXP. I don't do that. I present it. Here it is. It's like being at Morton's. And I may have said this to you before. Morton's has the cart with the steaks and the lobsters and everything on it. They bring it around. They don't try and convince you how good it is. They just, here it is. If you want it, you got it.
Right.
And that's how I look at it. And to me, this is the future of not just real estate business, but of business. I think that every single company or industry that can be done on I don't like the word virtual, in a cloud-based office will be turning to a cloud-based office because the brick and mortar expenses are so huge that if you can eliminate that in our business, all of that gets returned to the agents. But in other companies, it'll increase the bottom line, and the shareholders, if it's a corporation, they're the ones that will benefit from it.
Right. No, it's definitely an interesting model. I mean, the way you were at that time when you said, "Don't bother me, I'm not going anywhere." You know, I'm kind of like that one Jersey guy, like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like
loyalty is an important thing.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I definitely see the model, and I could see what's enticing about it. You know, I'm also pretty smart. I like to think I'm pretty smart. It's definitely an interesting model, and it definitely, I could see why people would be excited if they were there, like yourself. You know,
I am. To quote Glenn Sanford, I'm super stoked. I've never used those words before, but that's his phrase, and he is a self-described computer nerd. But he's got no ego. He's done some things that I've seen that really are making very. I've been involved in the corporate world for far too many years, right? 40 years now, and he does things that you don't see from the CEO, the founder of a almost billion-dollar company. It's refreshing.
That's great to hear. I'm happy for your success at EXP, and I hope EXP continues to be successful as well.
I hope Keller Williams continues. I do. There is room. Right. I'm not one of these believers that say that this new thing is going to put everything else out of business.
I'm with you.
I don't believe that. There's plenty of room for both models.
What did I just talk about on my list? Okay, just a lot of people even feel if a realtor's successful, that's taken out of you. That's not. Actually, you're showing me that it can be done, right?
Yes.
Should I bring up Tom Brady, or are you going to get mad if I bring up Tom Brady? Tom Brady, like people that hate on Tom Brady, like to me, you can't do that. Like he's just, you got to respect what he's doing.
I hate with respect.
Yeah, thank you. That's good enough. That's good.
Listen. He's the greatest quarterback that ever lived.
You don't like. You're not interested to see if he's going to win again. Like you might be rooting against him, but if he doesn't, you're going to be like, oh, like look at his age to do what he's doing. I'm not a Patriot fan. I respect greatness.
Me too. I remember when I was a kid, George Blanda was the backup quarterback for the Oakland Raiders, and he was also the kicker. And I think he was 43 the last year he played. Maybe 45. But I remember being a kid, 15 years old, amazed that this guy's 43 years old and he's still playing in the NFL. He'd come out for 2 or 3 plays a game, or if Darryl LaMonica got hurt, and he'd come out and kick the field goals, right? Tom Brady is the best quarterback in the game today. Right. With maybe an exception here or there, Mahomes or Aaron.
199 pick in the draft to put in the work, right?
It's unbelievable.
That's who do you?
And on top of that,
you're a Yankee fan.
on
Right?
top
You want
of
to
that,
talk
look
about
who's married
Mariano? Exactly. Yeah, but that's why people hate Yankees. Got the whole exactly. So you're a Yankee fan, right? You want to?
I'm a Yankee.
So Mariano, we could do this with Mariano too, right? Does it make you feel better?
I think that Mariano is the greatest pitcher that ever lived, starter or reliever. When you think about what he's done in the World Series and the playoffs, when you are only up against the best of the best for that particular year, his numbers are like nothing that has ever seen. His numbers in the regular season are great.
I'm going to tell you
but
something.
But postseason, forget it.
I'm watching, my friend Jimmy, and we're watching the Yankees, and it was Showalter. I forgot who they were playing, and he brings in Blackjack McDowell, and Mariano was a rookie, and my friend goes, bring in the rookie. That kid, all he does is throw strikes. Bring in that kid. They didn't know who Mariano was. Remember? And Blackjack walked, and we lost. Blackjack walked the guys, and my friend was calling for Mariano before he was even Mariano. You know what I mean? Well, and then Wetland, remember, you had to wait for Wetland, and you started to know then.
Wetland
was great, good. But he was making you nervous. The kid was lights out, and Wetland was like making you sweat, making the bases loaded, and you knew.
They didn't sign Wetland the next year. They knew that was it. You know what? This was the guy.
Right. So, continued greatness, continued success. So I got to do it. We're wrapping it up. You know what? I got to ask you a couple of questions on my show. I'm a big fan of basketball, so I'm going to ask you your favorite and hip hop music, rap. So I'm going to ask you your favorite NBA player, your favorite rapper, and your favorite rap song or album. And it could be anybody.
Okay.
So we'll start with the NBA player.
My idol.
Okay.
As a kid growing up, and not just because of how he played, but at the time of my life, I really didn't have a father figure, and I knew my father. I was like 13, 14, but I didn't know him well. My grandfather was getting older. Dr. J.
Okay.
I could not wait to get the New York Post and read Pete Vessey's column, because Pete Vessey was Dr. J's best friend too, and he would write about not just the incredible exploits that Dr. J did on the court, but about who he was as a person. And he became the person that I tried to become. He was always acted with class.
One of the best. I say it all the time. Like, he was one of the classiest guys. A lot of young guys don't know that today. But every time I even see an interview now, like the way he carries himself, you know what I mean? Yep. You see other people talking about him. You see the picture? Look, Bird and him. Remember when they fought?
Yes. Bird and him around the neck.
Yeah. And I see what Dr. J talks about Bird. He's like, he goes, you give you this persona of a hit from French Lick, but don't let that fool you.
Right.
Because but I mean, you know, I'm sad because I caught Dr. J at the end of his career when I didn't, and I heard all these things, and you know what I mean. And when you see it at the end, like I saw the highlights with the Nets and him dunking on what's his name, Bill Walton, and
just some amazing
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and the move on Michael Cooper, move. Remember the move when he cuffed him, and then the reverse, and then the other one when he cuffs him when he's coming down.
But you know what the thing is, no one else was doing anything like that at all. So today you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's great, but. Right, because I've seen Jordan now.
Right.
But back then, Elgin Baylor, Connie Hawkins, there was maybe 2 or 3 guys that was doing stuff.
People say it was Bird and Magic, but he was really the anchor before them, right? So what Bird and Magic were the 80s, right? What was he, the 7th?
He was the 70s.
Right, but he was the guy, right? But he was in the ABA, and then when he came over.
The oil company that I worked for, right? I told you I ended up getting unemployment, right? My friend got me that job. And his father was an oil truck driver. They had season tickets to both the Islanders and the Nets. It was in Red Hook, Brooklyn. And nobody wanted to go all the way out to Uniondale, to Nassau Coliseum. Louis was 3 years older than me, so I'm like 16, Louis 19. He had a car, 4 seats. Every like twice a week, we'd be going out to an Islander game or a Net game. Incredible seats. The Islanders were 2nd row in the corner. The Nets were 10th row center court. I got to see Dr. J the whole time he played for the Nets. And that was where I became, this is unbelievable, right?
So you saw him in his prime?
Yes.
Nice.
And years later, it broke my heart when they got merged into the NBA and Roy Ball sold them to the 76ers. So Garden had doubleheaders back then. The Sixers are coming in for a doubleheader, preseason doubleheader. I got great seats. I'm like 3rd row behind the basket. And Dr. J is hurt, so he's not playing. And I'm like, son, bitch, I paid for all his money for the seats.
Nightmare. I went to see the Celtic Knicks and Bird didn't play. I was like, yeah, it's horrible. He was hurt. Yeah.
It's halftime, and I go out to get a drink and go to the bathroom. And the exit right by the my seats that's where the entrance to the locker room is. So I go and do what I got to do. I'm on my way back. Dr. J comes out, and he's immediately surrounded by like 25 kids, you know. And now I'm probably 18 at the time, or 17. I'm probably 18. And all the kids are, 12, 13, 14 years old.
Right.
And he's, okay, guys, take it. Don't worry. You don't have to beat each other up. I'm going to sign every autograph. Okay? No worries. I got to get online. I get an autograph, right? So as I'm leaving, and I walk just behind them as I'm going back to my seat, and I say something off the cuff, not expecting him to hear. And I said, not only the greatest on the court, Doc, you're the greatest off the court, too. And I take a few more steps, and he says, hey. And I turn around, and he says, that means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
And that's the kind of guy that he was, that he goes out of his way to make people he had goosebumps.
Yeah, he definitely.
He was my idol. And my brother has become friends with him. He did a couple of commercials with them, because Pete Vesey is his best friend. Pete Vesey's a really good friend of my brother. I don't know if you heard the interview.
I did.
And so Pete's a good guy. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with Pete. He's a shot breaker. So we played a couple of games together. I used to go play at the 14th Street Y with my brother and him. Harvey World, as he calls it.
Oh, Pete used to play?
Oh,
Pete,
yeah. No, he was pretty good.
Yeah?
He was pretty good. Yeah.
So are you ready for the rapper, or I can't wait to hear this. And I'm happy you picked everybody picks Michael Jordan. Like, I love the guy, but I'm happy to hear someone else.
Jordan is the greatest player I ever
saw. Right.
I had season tickets for the Knicks. For the day they drafted Patrick Ewing, well, the next morning, I went down to the Garden and I bought season tickets, and they had been terrible for a long time. So I had good seats. I had the last row of folding chairs behind the basket. I would have had much better seats, but when I was drinking the night before, so I got there a few hours later than I expected to. But I had them until 2002, and I saw some amazing games. I mean, Michael Jordan ripped my heart out, but same thing. Hatred, but respect. Right? Not even hatred. He is the greatest basketball player ever.
Agreed. Hands down. But you know what game I was at? With Miller. Reggie Miller.
I was there too. I was there too.
I
was there, Charles Smith.
Oh, God, that's what
I was there when the Rangers.
What about I was there before?
I wasn't there for that one.
I wasn't there for that one either. No. All right, so you ready? I want to hear the rap.
So you're in trouble on this one, right?
Really?
Because when I lived with my ex-wife, she had 2 kids, and one was a teenager, and I had 2 rules.
I know. I guess what you're gonna say?
What?
Vanilla Ice.
No.
Oh, good.
No.
I don't know. Why am I in trouble?
I had 2 rules. I had 2 rules in my house.
No rap.
No wrestling and no rap.
So that means you don't know any?
No, I know. You know what? I will pick. What's his name? Slim Shady from
Eminem.
Detroit.
Eminem. All right.
You only get one shot. What's the name?
Yeah. You lose yourself. Eminem. All right.
That has some inspiration.
I love it.
To it. So that's it.
Okay.
If I gotta go with one,
all right. You know what? I'm gonna make a concession today. So, what kind of music do you like? Rock?
Home rock and roll.
So, what's your favorite rock group?
The Who was my band when I was back in the 70s.
You know they're going to be at Jones Beach Theater?
Are they?
Yeah, I looked at the schedule. They were on there. They were the only one decent on there this year.
They're 80 years old?
Whatever, man. You're into it, not me.
But more contemporary.
I like the Who.
More contemporary, and even this is not new. Is U2? I love too.
Okay, I love U2.
Yeah. So those.
How about best? You're going away. You need to take one album with you. What are you taking? Rock.
Mm.
And by the way, I saw the movie with Queen.
U2's greatest hits.
Okay, perfect. I saw the movie with Queen. Great
I haven't
movie.
seen it. I was not a fan of Queen.
Really?
Nah, it's just never did it for me.
I like Queen. I like Freddie.
You know what? When I was a kid growing up, Elton John never did it for me, right? When I get older as an adult, I like his music so much more now than I did then. I think it was the big glasses and everything like that. And in the 70s,
I just like Queen. I think they're unique. I think they did a lot of stuff that nobody else does, right? And I like that.
And incredible music. Freddie Mercury is at the top of the list. I take nothing respect, right? I was not a big fan of the Beatles, but greatest rock and roll band ever. So, I got no problem giving props to where it belongs.
That's it, brother. And I got to give you props and everything you do, and I got respect for you, and I thank you for spending your time here and sharing your journey with us. And come back whenever you.
Sure,
you
I'll come back. This is fun.
All right, brother.
I don't mind this.
Thank you so much.